A massive Popol and Kupa Revamp is a brand new patch update, more updates for Kagura's upcoming legend skin, a new Lord look, and many more. Hi MOBA fans, Tanuj here. And in this video, we are checking out the new patch note 2.2.08, which is now live on the advanced server. Alright, we will begin with the biggest change of this patch. That is the complete revamp of Popol and Kupa. Their hero look, skills, effects, and gameplay have been changed completely. We have already made a dedicated video on this. If you want to know more, please do check it out. The link will be in the description. Moving on to Lukas. Looks like last week's buffs were a little too successful. His performance went slightly above what the developers expected, so they are pulling back some of his defensive buffs. His HP growth is being reduced from 210 to 202, while his base physical defense goes down from 23 to 21. Nothing too crazy, but he will be slightly less tanky during the laning phase. And by the way, his first skill also gets a nice visual improvement. Next up, Karrie is getting another buff to improve her performance. This week, the developers are increasing the damage of her ultimate. The bonus damage based on the target's maximum HP is going from 6% all the way up to 8%. Apparently, last week's changes still weren't enough against fighters and tanks with huge HP pools, so that extra percentage can add up very quickly. Hayabusa, on the other hand, is getting toned down again. Skill 1 is losing some late game damage. Its maximum base damage goes from 320 down to 300, and the extra physical attack scaling drops from 90% down to 85%. His ultimate is getting hit as well. The attack damage goes from 140 plus 32% extra physical attack down to 130 plus 30%. Because of that, pressing ultimate alone should feel much less threatening now, meaning you will need to properly land your shadows and shurikens first. Sun is getting some massive improvements. His passive now deals 65 extra damage to creeps instead of 50, which should help his farming speed and early jungle clear. The clones created by skill 1 and skill 2 will now deal 55% of Sun's damage instead of 40%. At the same time, they will take 170% damage instead of 200%, meaning they are also going to survive noticeably longer. And his ultimate clone gets an even bigger boost. Its damage goes from 50% to 60% of Sun's damage, scaling with level all the way up to 70% to 80%. Since the clones already inherit 100% of Sun's attack speed and physical attack naturally, not only are the clones hitting harder, but this will also improve the healing from his passive as well. Next is Bruno, and this one is an extreme early to mid game buff. His first skill's base damage is going from 75 to 150 up to 100 to 225. That's a pretty noticeable increase, so Bruno's laning pressure and early fights should feel much stronger now. Cici is also getting a small early to mid game buff. Her first skill now deals more damage based on the enemy's HP, with the scaling going from 3% to 4.5%, up to 3.5% to 5%. The maximum damage against creeps is also being increased at early levels, going from 75 to 350 up to 100 to 350. This is mainly going to help her secure the EXP grab faster during the early game, and her repeated yo-yo hits are going to hurt. Moving on to Karrie. She is receiving more of an adjustment than a direct buff. The developers want her first skill to focus more on slowing enemies and forcing them to reposition instead of dealing heavy damage later game. The initial hit is being heavily reduced from 90% to 20%. The sustained damage scaling also drops from 20% to 10%. That sounds painful, but her ultimate is getting stronger to compensate. Each light wheel will now deal 50 base damage instead of 40, and while her ultimate is active, the movement speed bonus increases from 20% to 30%. Masha is getting a pretty interesting adjustment. To help Masha sustain herself in mid to late game team fights, instead of relying on full burst builds for 1-for-1 trades, her base HP is dropping quite heavily from 1400 to 1100, but her HP growth increases from 80 to 120. So she will start squishier but become significantly tankier as the match progresses. Her passive damage is also adjusted. The base percentage increases while the extra physical attack scaling gets reduced. Basically, she will rely slightly less on stacking pure physical attack. Her first skill also gets a new effect, where it can deal up to 50% additional damage to minions depending on the skill level. So late game lane clearing should become much faster. The biggest change is definitely her ultimate. Instead of gaining damage from 140% extra physical attack, it will now scale with 50% extra HP. Minsitthar only gets a small text update on his first skills description, so there are no actual gameplay changes here. Nana gets a bug fix. There was an issue where her second skill, Molina, could sometimes deal abnormal damage. That has now been fixed, so if Molina was randomly hitting harder than expected, that should finally stop happening. And finally, Obsidia is getting another nerf, as some of the previous patch buffs are being partially reverted. Her attack speed growth drops from 2% per level to 1.5%, and the shield from her ultimate takes a noticeable hit, dropping from 250 to 550 plus 35 per bone shard, down to 200 plus 25 per bone shard. Because of this, both her scaling and teamfight survivability will be weaker compared to last week. Now, looking at the battlefield changes, starting with nowhere to hide, vision. Wisps can now reveal nearby hidden enemies, making bush camping much more risky. The collection delay has also been removed, and some wisps have been moved to safer locations. Next, the healing turtle. After defeating the turtle, your team can summon an allied turtle. Its pushing power has also been increased, making turtle fights potentially much more important for creating map pressure. And finally, the golden turret. Deeper turrets award more shared team gold, but inner and base turrets will become harder to destroy. Destroying turrets will provide more shared gold to the team, especially when taking down deeper turrets near the enemy base, while inner and base turrets will stand much stronger against pushes. Now, looking for another update. Starting with Kagura's upcoming legend skin, we now have its new achievement icon as well, giving us a better idea about how this skin will look when everything is finally complete. Plus, multiplayer has now been added to practice mode. You can now practice with your friends, which is definitely going to make practice mode a lot more interesting. And lastly, here is the first look at the brand new Lord. Alright, guys, that is all for this patch update. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe to MOBA Tanuj for more. Thank you so much for watching.